It's literally changed my life and impacted every decision I made from the past 20 years.
I can say hands down, without a doubt, the highlight of my college experience.
It makes your world that much bigger and that much smaller.
It's not all about us and how we live.
That time abroad and all of that travel has definitely stuck with me and impacted the rest of my life.
I mean, the places we visited and the activities we did affirmed what I had been studying all along.
You can make faster friends there than you can in 4 years of regular life at college.
And I feel like I'm still uncovering the ways in which I've changed through travel.
You really just don't get unless you go there. There's no way to learn it through the internet or anything like that.
I wanted to tell you a little bit about my experience traveling abroad while I was in college. But first, coffee. I did 2 study abroad programs. The first one was to Wales in the UK. The second trip was to Nicaragua.
So the first time I went abroad was to do a semester in Australia with the School for International Training to study conservation, ecology, and indigenous practices in conservation.
I did a study abroad trip in 2006 to Wales. It was a month-long trip with about 19 participants.
That started my sophomore year. I did a year in Costa Rica studying Spanish language, history, culture. I also had a chance after that to go back to Panama for 2 or 3 alternative spring breaks for a week each time.
The first was a service learning class called Leadership and Social Change that culminated in a 2.5-week trip to various parts of Bolivia. The second was a 1-week alternative spring break trip to work with a nonprofit in Monte Cristi in the Dominican Republic.
I studied abroad in a really traditional sense by going to Spain for a semester and studying Spanish language. I was in a really small town in Ronda in the south of Spain in Andalusia, and I got to go to school in a palace and live with a family.
And I did the summer New Zealand program, so it was a month-long program. That's a class that I didn't necessarily need for my major, but I had never been abroad. I had only been on the East Coast of the United States, and it completely opened my mind to what there is out there in this world.
Throughout my college career, cost was something I always had to think about, whether that was study abroad or just being at university, as I was responsible for most of my tuition and living expenses. I had 2 to 3 part-time jobs, which may sound overwhelming, but actually the great thing is there's so many really interesting types of jobs you can find on campus and around the campus. So I was able to find work that was interesting and meaningful, and also was giving me the type of experience that impacted what I wanted to do after university.
I had to get creative as a poor college student. One of the ways that I helped pay for it was I applied for a scholarship, and that covered the tuition of the program. And then the rest of the expenses I just worked and budgeted and saved at my 2 jobs that I had at the university.
I think it was just all wrapped up in my whole giant student loan bundle, but I don't even think about it now. I'm on a loan repayment plan. It gets all paid off in 10 years of public service. So honestly, I have 3 more semesters to go and all of my loans will be paid off, and that goes for my graduate school loans as well. And so I don't even think about the cost of it because that trip changed my life and the money wasn't even a thing. So take out loans, get your trip paid for.
For my first 2, I got student loans and have since been able to pay them off because they were fairly reasonable loans. And then I also received a scholarship for the second time I went to New Zealand as a student leader on that trip.
I was able to use a bunch of different methods in order to pay for that, including I did have 3 part-time jobs on campus, and then I also asked my family and friends, instead of for birthday presents, I just asked for if they could kick in a little bit to help me pay for the trip, because of course, going on a trip like that is a great birthday gift, so someone being able to help out with that was amazing.
And for the last 2 trips, I paid for them by stepping into the student leadership role, which cut down or covered the cost completely.
I paid for those trips by applying for grants through the financial aid system, and I was actually just awarded a lot of free money. I did have some help from some family as well, so that did help a little bit. But there's a lot of opportunity out there for you to apply, and if you don't apply, you won't get it.
All of the crazy things that we got to do. We stayed at a farm and I got to ride in the scoop of a tractor. We did a backpacking trip. I jumped off a 30-foot waterfall.
And we went abroad and actually built homes in the Dominican Republic for a week. So it was a great experience. The biggest thing is just learning a bit more about yourself by putting yourself in an oftentimes uncomfortable situation. You learn about how you handle things. You learn a lot about humanity, what makes us the same, what makes us different.
And this trip just gave me the opportunity to help plan a big student expedition and help facilitate their student experience.
The first week we stayed on a coffee farm, and we were there to do renewable energy work, but we would work for, about a half a day, 4 hours, and then the rest of the day after we'd have lunch, we got to just hang out, kick it, play guitar, go on a hike, go swimming in waterfalls. It was amazing.
And of course we did a lot of cool adventure things too. We went backpacking, we went sea kayaking, we did all kinds of cool exploration and adventure stuff.
So I went to Costa Rica thinking I would spend time hiking in the beautiful mountains and whitewater rafting and surfing, but actually I spent most of my time with people, eating with them and dancing with them and learning how they lived, and that's what really was interesting and what drove me. It's really about people more than the place.
I remember one experience in particular. The man who met our group, said, "Why come to Wales for a month?" I remember thinking, why not? This is an incredible place. Not just the natural beauty, but the people and the culture, and even what seemed mundane in the daily lives of some of the communities we visited felt really rich to me and really represented what it meant to live in a community.
The other thing that made it really special is we got to live and work alongside the indigenous community in Fiji, and then a little bit in New Zealand as well. And so we really kind of got to be woven into the culture versus just being tourists passing by and seeing sort of famous sights and scenes.
I met the best friends of my entire life on that trip. And with all of this pandemic going on, we have been in such close contact. We are the best of friends. We talk every single day. A group of 10 of us, all from all over the world. We have an Irish friend. We have friends from Kansas, from Colorado. We have Swedish friends, just people who I would have never met otherwise had I not lived in Spain with them.
I think overall it increased my sense of appreciation for what I do have and gave me a motivation. So what I ended up doing after college was join the Peace Corps, and I was stationed in Vanuatu, a small country in the South Pacific. Peace Corps is typically 2 years. I ended up staying for 5.5.
I've spent the last 7 of the last 10 years in the UK, living about an hour south of London, where I met my wife 10 years ago at a place called L'Abri Fellowship.
My time in Bolivia and Wales in particular, I think because they were not only trips, but semester-long service learning classes, had a deep impact on me that still inform how I think, move, and lead today.
I remember having a distinct thought or idea of like, yeah, New Zealand is beautiful, yeah, Fiji is really beautiful, but Boone, North Carolina is also really beautiful. And so I want to take advantage of all of the wonderful, great weather days, or it doesn't even have to be great weather days, to get out there and explore your environment.
It's really impacted my life over the years. Really some of my best friends that I continue to keep in touch with to this day, 10 plus years later, were from that trip in Wales.
We only did a month there, but I loved it so much, and my husband went with me, and he loved it so much that when we graduated from college, we decided we're going back. It was one of the best years of my life, and it's just a really interesting experience to see what it's like to go to another country and just fully immerse yourself in that culture.
I got the opportunity to work for a company there that helps international students come to New Zealand and do cultural experiences there. So it was really fantastic for me to turn around and teach that and share those experiences in a professional setting, working with students who were like me when I was learning that. So it was great to be able to turn around and share that experience with them.
So in a way, sometimes I really struggled with how broad my field was, but going on this trip showed me the real specific ways I could apply each of those areas of study, how people really had meaningful work. They loved the work that they did, and they saw the ways that it contributed to the well-being in their communities, the well-being of their physical environment, the well-being of their small, local, and even regional and global economies.
And international trips have just played a significant role in my life even since then. I've made it a priority to go abroad and do things. We now have a 2-year-old, and this last January we took her on her first international trip. We went to Belize, and it was just amazing to see the world kind of through her eyes and really just start to experience that and pass that love along.
They gave me a sense of confidence when navigating new places. I've done a lot more traveling since then. It opened my eyes to a new way of seeing myself in the world and a new way of seeing other people and other cultures.
Now I'm a physician in Baltimore at the University of Maryland Emergency Department.
I work for a nonprofit. We serve rural community organizations that are doing programs for the well-being of the environment and people in those communities and their local economy.
I now live here in Washington, D.C., where I work as a legislative director for a congressman from upstate New York.
I am a child psychologist, also in Baltimore.
Give you a little tour and tell you what I'm up to now. This is the Manor House where I live with my family, my wife and 3 kids that we have. And we welcome people from all over the world, often 10 or 12 different nationalities, to ask questions about life and about God.
My husband and I run a sports and outdoors store called the Flying Kiwi Outdoors. And of course it was inspired by our time in New Zealand because New Zealanders are called Kiwis.
We started a small company selling sports and outdoor equipment. So we carry surfing equipment and snowboarding and that kind of stuff. And that has allowed us to kind of pursue our passion there.
And I work for United Way of Asheville and Buncombe County. I am our community partnerships manager.
I am an embodied practical theologian currently serving as the worship leader and outreach minister at a church in Charlotte.
The past couple years I've actually been investing in real estate, and I've flipped a couple houses, and I'm running an Airbnb, working on adding to my real estate portfolio.
I'm a public school teacher here in DC, and I'm in my 10th year of teaching art at Maury Elementary School on Capitol Hill.
Married a guy from Vanuatu, and now you can see I'm living still in the Pacific, in American Samoa, working with the Coral Reef Advisory Group here as a marine protected area coordinator.
Things happen when you travel that you just can never expect, and that's the beauty of travel.
Highly recommend it. Best decision of my life. I tell all of my elementary school students, go to college, go abroad, take advantage of the things that are out there for you.
Get out there and enjoy the adventure.
Won't be anything you ever forget.
It's still one of the best experiences to date.
You just realize that this is not the world. North Carolina is not the whole world.
And all of that is due to travel. Just changed my life, gave me a sense of motivation, and put me on the path to where I am today.
Buen viaje.